Captain James Miller stood at the wide viewport of the bridge, his weathered face reflected against the vast darkness of space. Behind him, the steady hum and soft beeps of the command center filled the air as his crew worked at their stations. The massive warship Reckoning moved silently through the stars, its gleaming hull a testament to human engineering and willpower. "Captain," called out Communications Officer Lisa Gray, her voice cutting through his thoughts. "Incoming message from Earth Command. Priority 1. Miller turned, his blue eyes narrowing slightly. Priority 1 messages were rare, even for a ship of Reckoning's importance. "Put it through to my station," he ordered, moving to his command chair and activating the secure terminal. As the message appeared on his screen, the bridge crew noticed their captain's shoulders stiffen. His face, normally calm and collected, darkened with each word he read. When he finally looked up, there was a storm brewing in his eyes. "Officer Gray, call all senior staff to the war room." Immediately. 20 minutes later, Miller faced his leadership team around the sleek black table of the war room. The ship's holographic projector displayed the official message from Earth Command in glowing blue text that seemed to mock them all. "As of 800 Earth Standard Time, the warship Reckoning has been declared illegal by unanimous vote of the Galactic Council." Miller read aloud. "All operations are to cease immediately. Captain Miller is ordered to return the vessel to Earth Orbital Dock 9 for immediate decommissioning." Chief Engineer Tom Parker slammed his fist on the table. "This is nonsense. They can't just declare our ship illegal." "Apparently they can," Miller replied, his voice controlled but tight with anger. "The message cites violation of Council Weapons Treaty, Section 42.3. No member species may deploy weapons systems capable of planetary destruction or fleet-wide neutralization." Lieutenant Alex Reed, the weapons officer, laughed without humor. "So they're scared of us. Good. Maybe they should be." Dr. Helen Ward, the ship's science officer, spoke up, her voice calm against the rising tension. "The Reckoning was designed as a defensive measure, not an offensive weapon. We all know that." Miller nodded. "The problem is, we designed her too well. The new shield system alone makes us nearly untouchable, and our weapons array." He paused, looking at Reed. Reed finished for him. "We could take on a fleet 3 times our size and still come out without a scratch." The room fell silent as they all considered what this meant. For 50 years, humans had been the newcomers to the galactic community. 50 years of being patted on the head like children. 50 years of unfair trade agreements, restricted territories, and technological guidance that seemed designed to keep Earth dependent on alien goodwill. And now, the one time humans had created something that put them on equal footing. The Council wanted it destroyed. "Captain," asked Security Chief Mark Foster, "what does Admiral Wilson say about this?" Miller's jaw tightened. "The Admiral is the one who signed the decommission order." Parker cursed under his breath. He caved to them. Again. "What are our options?" Dr. Ward asked, looking around the table. Miller pulled up a new screen showing their current position near the edge of human-controlled space. "Officially, I have no options. I'm ordered to bring this ship home and watch while they tear it apart." "And unofficially?" Reed asked, leaning forward. Before Miller could answer, the ship's AI system chimed in, its neutral voice filling the room. "Captain, sensors detect incoming vessels at Mark 221.43. 5 ships, Vex Empire configuration." The mood in the room shifted instantly. The Vex were known aggressors, reptilian warriors who had been pressing at the borders of human space for years. "Battle stations," Miller ordered, rising from his chair as alarms began to sound throughout the ship. "We'll continue this discussion after we deal with our visitors." On the bridge, Miller watched as the tactical display showed 5 Vex warships approaching in attack formation. Normal protocol would be to call for backup and hold position until reinforcements arrived. But the Reckoning wasn't a normal ship. "Sir," said Officer Gray, "Earth Command is on the line." Admiral Wilson himself. The main screen lit up with the stern face of Admiral Wilson, His gray hair cut military short, his eyes hard. "Captain Miller, I'm tracking the Vex ships approaching your position. Hold defensive position only. Support vessels are en route." Miller straightened. "With respect, Admiral, we both know standard vessels will take hours to reach us, and civilian outposts are within striking distance of the Vex fleet." "Those are your orders, Captain," Wilson said firmly, but Miller caught something in his eyes. Reluctance, perhaps even shame. "Admiral," Miller said carefully, "you've ordered me to bring in this ship for decommissioning. Before that happens, wouldn't it make sense to have one final field test of its capabilities?" For the official record. A long silence followed. The bridge crew held their breath. Finally, the Admiral spoke. "You have authorization for limited engagement, Captain. Data collection purposes only." As the screen went dark, a small smile touched Miller's lips. "Lieutenant Reed, bring weapon systems to full power. Chief Parker, divert auxiliary power to the shield grid. Let's show them why they're so afraid of this ship." The next 20 minutes changed everything. The Vex ships opened fire first, energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaking across space toward the reckoning. But the human vessel's advanced shields absorbed the impacts without strain, the energy simply dissipating in ripples of blue light. Then the reckoning responded. Precision beam weapons sliced through the first Vex ship's engines, leaving it dead in space. Advanced missile systems overwhelmed the second vessel's defenses, reducing it to expanding debris. The third tried to flee, but the reckoning's superior speed allowed it to cut off escape. Soon, 3 Vex ships were destroyed, and 2 were retreating at maximum speed. On the bridge, the crew watched in amazed silence. They had trained in simulations, but seeing the real power of their ship was something else entirely. "No damage to report, Captain," Parker announced, a hint of pride in his voice. "Shields never dropped below 92%. Miller nodded. "Officer Gray, send full battle data to Earth Command as ordered." "Already done, sir. And there's something else. We're being scanned by a vessel at the edge of sensor range. Council marking." The crew exchanged glances. They had been watched. The Council had seen exactly what the reckoning could do. Miller's personal terminal chimed with a new message. As he read it, his expression hardened. "New orders," he announced. "We are to proceed immediately to Earth for decommissioning. No delays, no stops." "They're more afraid than ever," Reed said quietly. Miller looked around at his crew, at the ship they had all helped build and perfect. Then he made a decision that would change the course of human history. "Navigation, plot a course," he ordered. "For Earth, Captain?" the navigator asked. Miller shook his head. "No, for the Arcturus Nebula. We need time to think." As the Reckoning's engines powered up, James Miller knew he was crossing a line. He was defying direct orders. But sometimes protecting humanity meant making hard choices. And as the stars stretched into streaks of light around them, the crew of the most powerful human warship ever built began their journey into the unknown. The Arcturus Nebula wrapped around the Reckoning like a colorful blanket of gases and stardust. For 3 days, the massive warship had hidden here while Captain James Miller and his crew debated their next move. The swirling purples and blues of the nebula provided excellent cover from scanning systems, but they couldn't hide forever. In the ship's main conference room, the senior staff gathered around a holographic display of Earth news broadcasts. None of them looked happy. "They're calling us traitors," Officer Lisa Gray said quietly, watching as the Earth president gave a speech about rogue officers and stolen military assets. Chief Engineer Tom Parker switched off the projection with a disgusted wave of his hand. "We didn't steal anything. We built this ship. Our designs, our work. Legally, the Reckoning belongs to Earth Defense Forces," Dr. Helen Ward pointed out, always the voice of reason. "But morally," she trailed off, shaking her head. Captain Miller leaned forward, his hands clasped tightly together. "I take full responsibility for our current situation. Anyone who wants to return to Earth can take a shuttle. I won't think less of you." The room fell silent. No one moved. Lieutenant Alex Reed, the weapons officer, broke the silence. "Captain, I've been running diagnostics on our weapons systems, and there's something strange I need to show you." Reed activated the room's display, showing a complex series of code. "The ship's AI has been evolving. These are weapon targeting protocols from when we launched 3 months ago." He swiped, bringing up another screen. "And these are the current protocols. They're 32% more efficient, with targeting speed increased by nearly half." Parker leaned closer to the display. "The AI isn't supposed to be able to rewrite its own combat systems. It hasn't just changed weapons," Reed continued. "It's modified shield harmonics, engine outputs, even life support to be more efficient. The changes are all small, but together, the ship is making itself better." Miller finished, a mix of awe and concern in his voice. Before anyone could respond, an urgent alert sounded throughout the ship. The group rushed to the bridge, where the tactical officer was already at his station. "Captain, sensors detect a massive Vex fleet at the edge of the nebula. At least 20 warships, including 2 dreadnoughts." Miller's eyes narrowed. "Are they searching for us?" "No, sir. They're on a direct course for the Walker colony." Everyone on the bridge tensed. Walker colony was a civilian settlement with minimal defenses, home to over 50,000 human settlers. "How long until Earth defense ships can reach them?" Miller asked. Officer Gray checked her console and grimaced. 6 hours at best, sir. The Vex will reach Walker in less than 2. Miller paced the bridge, his decision weighing heavily on him. Revealing their position would mean facing Earth's anger and the Council's judgment. Staying hidden would mean thousands of innocent lives lost. In the end, it wasn't really a choice. Plot an intercept course. Maximum speed. The crew moved with renewed purpose. As the Reckoning's engines powered up, Miller opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the captain. We are moving to defend Walker Colony against a Vex attack force. We will be outnumbered, but not outmatched. Remember your training. Remember why we built this ship. To protect humanity, no matter the cost." The Reckoning burst from the nebula in a streak of light, its advanced engines pushing it far faster than any standard human vessel. In just under an hour, they approached the Walker system. "Vex fleet detected," announced the tactical officer. "They've spotted us, sir. They're changing course to intercept." Miller nodded grimly. "Put me on an open channel. All frequencies." When the communications officer gave him the signal, Miller spoke clearly. "Attention, Vex fleet. This is Captain James Miller of the Earth Warship Reckoning. You are approaching a civilian human colony. Change course immediately, or we will be forced to take action." The response came quickly, a barrage of energy weapons fire from the lead Vex ships. "I guess that's their answer," Miller said. "Lieutenant Reed, you may return fire." What happened next would be talked about for generations. The Reckoning's advanced weapon systems engaged with precision that seemed almost impossible. Each shot found a critical system on the Vex ships: engines, weapon banks, command centers. One by one, they were disabled or destroyed. A Vex dreadnought launched a volley of missiles, only to watch them explode harmlessly against the Reckoning shields. "Shields holding at 96%, Parker reported, a note of amazement in his voice, despite having designed the system himself. On the tactical display, the crew watched as half the Vex fleet was reduced to drifting wrecks in under 20 minutes. The remaining ships began to retreat, their formation breaking apart in panic. "Should we pursue, Captain?" asked the navigation officer. Miller shook his head. "No. Our goal was to protect the colony, not destroy their entire fleet." He turned to Officer Gray. "Open a channel to Walker Colony." The colony's governor appeared on screen, her face showing a mixture of relief and shock. "Captain Miller, we've been watching the battle. I don't know how to thank you." "No thanks needed, Governor. Is everyone safe?" Thanks to you, yes. But Captain, there's something you should know. There are council representatives here. They've been watching everything. Miller wasn't surprised. I expected as much. They're demanding to speak with you. With a deep breath, Miller nodded. The governor's face was replaced by a stern-looking alien with blue-tinted skin and large, judgmental eyes, a member of the Galactic Council's Security Committee. Captain Miller, the council representative began. What we have witnessed today confirms our worst fears. Your vessel possesses destructive capabilities far beyond acceptable limits for any single-member species. Miller stood tall. What you witnessed today was a defense of innocent lives against unprovoked aggression. The capability remains unacceptable, the representative continued. The Council hereby demands the immediate surrender of your vessel to neutral Council forces. Refusal will be considered an act of war against the Galactic Council itself. Before Miller could respond, Lieutenant Reed called out, Captain, we're being targeted. Multiple Council warships decloaking at coordinates 227.56. The tactical display confirmed it. 8 Council vessels had appeared, surrounding the Reckoning in a perfect containment formation. They were waiting for us, Parker said in disbelief. This was a trap. Miller muted the transmission and turned to his crew. Options. Reed checked his console. Their weapons are powerful, but our shields should hold. However, if we fight Council ships, there's no going back. Officer Gray looked up from her station, her expression grim. Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the Council ships. They're preparing to fire some kind of dampening field. They want to disable us, not destroy us, Miller realized. They want the Reckoning intact. Making his decision, Miller reopened the channel to the Council representative. We will not surrender this vessel. We built it to protect humanity, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Without waiting for a response, he ordered, Navigation, plot a jump to emergency coordinates. Lieutenant Reed, targeted defensive fire only, disable, don't destroy. As the Council ships opened fire, the Reckoning responded with precise shots that knocked out propulsion systems on 3 vessels. Then, its engines glowing bright, the human warship disappeared into faster-than-light travel, leaving the Council forces behind. In the sudden quiet of the bridge, Miller turned to Officer Gray. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them what happened. Tell them we saved Walker Colony. And tell them, he paused, looking around at his determined crew, tell them the Reckoning is not a weapon to be feared. It's a shield for those who can't protect themselves. As the Reckoning raced through the stars to an uncertain future, the crew knew one thing for certain. They had just changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. 2 weeks had passed since the battle at Walker Colony. The Reckoning drifted silently at the edge of charted space, its systems running at minimal power to avoid detection. Inside, the mood was tense but focused as the crew worked to understand their situation better. Chief Engineer Tom Parker hunched over a workstation in his private lab, dark circles under his eyes. For days, he had been analyzing data stolen from the Council ships during their brief encounter. The door slid open, and Captain Miller walked in. Any progress? Miller asked, placing a cup of coffee next to Parker's hand. Parker took the cup gratefully and straightened his back. Captain, you need to see this. He pulled up a series of technical schematics on the main display. These are weapons designs I found buried in the Council's security files. Miller leaned closer. Are these what I think they are? Yes, sir. Planet killers. Sterilization weapons. Technology that makes our Reckoning look like a child's toy. Parker's voice was grim. And the timestamps show they've been developing these for years, long before we even started building the Reckoning. Miller's face hardened. So they ban our defensive technology while secretly building weapons that could wipe out entire worlds. It gets worse, Parker continued, bringing up another file. These weapons have already been deployed on Council ships, the same ships that demanded we surrender our vessel for being too powerful. Before Miller could respond, his comm unit buzzed. Captain to the bridge immediately. When Miller arrived on the bridge, Officer Lisa Gray was waiting at her communication station, her face pale. "Sir, I've been monitoring encrypted council transmissions as ordered. I just decoded something disturbing." She played the transmission, a conversation between two council members speaking in their own language. The ship's computer provided translation. The humans must not be allowed to keep this technology. Agreed. If we cannot acquire it, we must destroy it. What of Earth's protests? Admiral Wilson has been dealt with. He will cooperate. And if he doesn't, then his family's shuttle accident will become a reality instead of a threat. Miller's blood ran cold. They're blackmailing Admiral Wilson. Gray nodded. "Sir, there's more. I've detected unusual communication patterns between certain council members and the Vex Empire. It's encrypted beyond our ability to decode, but the timing. You think the council and the Vex are working together?" Miller asked, the implication sinking in. "I can't prove it, but the attack on Walker Colony came right after the council declared our ship illegal. It feels coordinated." Security Chief Mark Foster, who had been listening from his station, spoke up. "If they're right about the Reckoning's threat to their power, they'd need to either control it or create a situation where destroying it seems justified." Miller's response was cut short by an alert from the tactical station. "Captain, unknown vessel approaching. Small, using stealth technology." "Battle stations," Miller ordered automatically. "Wait, sir," the tactical officer called out. "They're broadcasting a message on an Earth Defense Force emergency channel." Miller hesitated. "Put it through, audio only." A deep, unfamiliar voice filled the bridge. "Captain Miller, my name is Representative Call. I serve on the Galactic Council's Minority Rights Committee. I need to speak with you urgently and privately. I come alone in a personal vessel." Miller exchanged glances with his officers, scanned the vessel. "Any weapons or additional life forms?" "None detected, sir. Just one life form, consistent with Terulian physiology." The Terulians were among the few council races that spoke against banning our ship, Officer Gray noted. After a moment's consideration, Miller replied, "Representative Call, you may dock at our secondary shuttle bay. You will be met by security personnel." 30 minutes later, Miller sat across from Representative Call in a secure conference room. The alien had the tall, slender build typical of Terulians, with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. "I risk everything by coming here," Call began, his large eyes darting nervously around the room. "But what is happening in the council cannot continue." "What exactly is happening?" Miller asked directly. "A conspiracy, Captain. For decades, the dominant council species have maintained their power by controlling military technology. When humanity joined the galactic community, you were seen as primitive, no threat." Call's speech was careful, measured. "But humans adapt quickly. Too quickly for the council's comfort. So they restrict our technology while developing their own superweapons," Miller said. Call's eyes widened in surprise. "You know about the weapons. We found evidence in council files. But why are you telling us this?" "Because the council plans to seize your ship within days," Call replied. "They've assembled a task force of 30 vessels with specialized dampening technology, designed specifically to disable the Reckoning without destroying it. Once captured, they will study its technology, then destroy it, and possibly make an example of Earth for daring to develop it." Miller's jaw tightened. "How do we know this isn't just another trap?" Call reached slowly into his robe and removed a small data device. "This contains the fleet movements, command codes, and the names of the 7 council members orchestrating this conspiracy. It also has evidence of their secret dealings with the Vex Empire." As Miller reached for the device, Call held it back for a moment. "Captain, there are those of us on the council who believe in true equality among species. We believe the current leadership uses security concerns to maintain their dominance. Your ship threatens that dominance, yes, but perhaps that dominance needs to be threatened." Miller took the device. Why help us? Your people are still part of the council. For now, Call said grimly. But smaller species like mine see how the council treats humans and wonder when we will be next. Besides, I have my own reasons. His eyes grew distant. My home colony was attacked by Vex raiders 2 years ago. The council promised protection but sent ships too late. We lost thousands. Lieutenant Reed, who had been silently observing the meeting, spoke up. You said they have technology specifically designed to disable our ship. How is that possible? The reckoning is unique. Someone provided them with details of your systems, Call replied. Someone with intimate knowledge of the reckoning's design. A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications became clear. There was a traitor, either at Earth Command or possibly even among their crew. After Call departed, Miller gathered his senior staff to review the information. The data painted a disturbing picture. A coordinated plan by Council hardliners to eliminate the reckoning while making it appear justified. We need to warn Earth, Dr. Ward insisted. And tell them what? Parker countered. That the Council they trust is plotting against humanity. With Admiral Wilson compromised, who would believe us? Miller stared at the tactical display, showing the approaching Council fleet. We need proof that even Earth's leadership can't ignore. And we need to protect ourselves from this specialized technology they've developed. Reed had been unusually quiet, reviewing the technical specifications from Call's data. Now he looked up. Captain, I think I know why the ship's AI has been evolving its systems. It may have detected these threats before we did. You think the AI is trying to counter these Council weapons on its own? Miller asked, skeptical. I believe so, Reed replied. But it needs more information. With this data on the Council's technology, I think our AI could develop countermeasures. Miller weighed his options carefully. Trusting the ship's self-evolving AI carried risks, but their situation was already desperate. Do it, he finally ordered. Give the AI access to the data, but monitor everything it does. As Reed left to work with the AI, Miller turned to Communications Officer Gray. Contact every independent news organization on Earth. Tell them we have evidence of a Council conspiracy and crimes against humanity. Tell them we'll broadcast proof in 48 hours. Sir, Foster objected, that's not much time to prepare. It's all the time we have. Miller replied, his expression resolute. The Council wants to make an example of us. Fine, but we're going to make sure everyone knows exactly who they're dealing with first. As the crew rushed to prepare, the Reckoning's engines hummed to life. The most powerful human warship ever built was about to make its stand, not just for its own survival, but for the future of humanity in the stars. The Reckoning moved swiftly through the darkness of the Carlin asteroid belt, a remote region known for its dangerous, unpredictable rock formations. Few ships dared to navigate these treacherous paths, which made it the perfect hiding place. Captain Miller had chosen this location carefully after their meeting with Representative Call. On the bridge, the crew worked in focused silence. Their plan to expose the Council's conspiracy was risky, but necessary. They had less than 40 hours before their promised broadcast to Earth. Captain, called Officer Gray from her communication station, I'm picking up a distress signal. Miller frowned. Out here? That's unusual. What's the source? A small transport vessel. They're reporting engine failure and are drifting into the asteroid field. Could be a trap. Security Chief Foster warned, always cautious. Miller nodded. Scan the area for any other vessels. After a moment, the tactical officer replied, no other ships detected, sir. But the transport's energy signature is unusual. Not matching any known Council or Earth design. Miller weighed his options. His mission was too important to risk on unknown factors, but leaving someone to die in the asteroid field went against everything he believed in. Plot an intercept course, he finally ordered, but maintain battle readiness. The Reckoning approached the damaged vessel carefully. It was small, barely a quarter the size of an Earth shuttle, with an unfamiliar design that suggested non-human origin. "Hail them," Miller commanded. The main screen flickered to life, showing a reptilian face with amber eyes and scaled skin. "This is Captain Trell of the Drell Transport Whisper. Our gratitude for your assistance." Miller recognized the species immediately. The Drell were a peaceful race known for their advanced medical knowledge, but they had little military power. Like humans, they were relatively new to the galactic community. "This is Captain Miller of the..." He hesitated, then decided on honesty, "of the Earth Warship Reckoning." The Drell captain's eyes widened. "The Reckoning. The ship that defeated the Vex fleet at Walker Colony. Your vessel is quite famous." "Infamous, you mean?" Miller replied with a tight smile. "We're going to bring you aboard. Prepare for docking." An hour later, Miller sat across from Captain Trell and his 4 crew members in the Reckoning's conference room. The story they told changed everything. "Our people have been under attack for months," Trell explained, his voice carrying the musical accent typical of Drell speech. "The Vex claim they are simply securing their borders, but they have taken 3 of our outer colonies. Why hasn't the Council intervened?" Dr. Ward asked. A female Drell named Saren answered, her voice bitter. "The Council claims they lack evidence of aggression. They send observers who arrive too late to witness the attacks." "Just like my colony," Representative Call added. The Tyrolean had remained aboard to help analyze the Council data. Captain Trell leaned forward. "When we heard about your ship, how one vessel stood against an entire Vex fleet, we began searching for you. There are others like us, species who suffer while the Council does nothing. Or worse than nothing," Miller said thoughtfully. "We have evidence suggesting some Council members may be coordinating with the Vex." The revelation sent a shock through the Drell crew. Trell's scales darkened with anger. "We suspected as much, but had no proof." Chief Engineer Parker, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "Captain, I've been working with Lieutenant Reed on adapting our systems using the data from Representative Call. With the help of our AI, we've made progress, but," he glanced at the Drell visitors, "we could use additional input from different technological perspectives." Miller understood Parker's meaning. The Drell had different technical approaches that might help counter the Council's specialized weapons. "Captain Trell, would your engineer be willing to work with my team? We're preparing to stand against a Council fleet, and we could use fresh ideas." Trell didn't hesitate. "Engineer Merrick would be honored. The Drell owe you a debt for your stand against the Vex." Over the next day, the Reckoning became a hub of intense activity. Engineer Merrick, a young Drell with exceptional technical skills, worked alongside Parker and Reed to enhance the ship's systems. The Drell's approach to energy manipulation, different from human methods, proved invaluable. While they worked, Communications Officer Gray made another surprising discovery. "Captain, I've detected unusual transmissions from a nearby system. They're using an old encryption algorithm, but the pattern is unmistakable. It's the Meron distress code." The Meron were another species Miller recognized, insectoid beings known for their advanced sensor technology. Like the Drell, they were not among the dominant Council races. With Captain Trell's encouragement, Miller decided to investigate. The Reckoning found not one Meron vessel, but an entire refugee fleet hiding in the shadow of a gas giant. Their home system had been attacked by Vex forces 3 weeks earlier. The Council had sent token assistance, far too little and too late. As Miller stood on the bridge looking at the visualization of the Meron refugee ships, a plan began forming in his mind. He turned to Officer Gray. "How much time before our broadcast deadline?" 15 hours, Captain." Miller nodded. "Contact the leaders of the Meron fleet. I want to speak with them immediately." When the Meron leader, Supreme Coordinator Vaz, appeared on screen, his compound eyes reflected the light in facets of emerald green. His mandibles clicked softly as he spoke through a translator. "Captain Miller, your reputation precedes you. The ship that defied the Council to protect its people. Not just our people anymore, Miller replied. Supreme Coordinator, I believe we have common enemies and common goals. The meeting that followed included Captain Trell, Representative Call, and Supreme Coordinator Vaz. Miller shared everything. The evidence of Council conspiracy, the secret weapons, the coordinated attacks. For too long, the Council has maintained power by keeping newer species weak and divided, Miller explained. They claim to protect galactic peace, but they really protect their own dominance. Vaz's antennae quivered with emotion. The Marin suspected, but like the Drell, we had no proof. Now we have proof, Miller said firmly. And we're going to share it with everyone. But we need to do more than just expose them. We need to show the galaxy another way, species working together as equals. By the end of the meeting, a historic alliance had formed. The Drell would contribute their medical knowledge and energy manipulation techniques. The Maron would provide advanced sensor technology, and the Reckoning would serve as the shield for them all. Engineer Merrick and his Maron counterpart worked through the night with Parker and Reed. Together, they enhanced the Reckoning's capabilities beyond what any single species could have achieved alone. The ship's AI integrated these new approaches with startling efficiency. As the deadline for their broadcast approached, Miller gathered the senior staff and their new allies on the bridge. What we do today will change the course of galactic history, he told them. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for all species who deserve equal standing. Just as they prepared to transmit their evidence to Earth, emergency alerts blared across every console. Captain, the tactical officer called out, his voice tense. Multiple ships exiting faster than light travel near Earth. Vex signatures, at least 30 vessels, including 3 dreadnoughts. The view screen showed the massive Vex armada approaching Earth's defense perimeter. Officer Gray's console lit up with incoming transmissions. Sir, Earth Command is broadcasting on all emergency channels. They're under attack. Their defense fleet is outnumbered 3-1. Miller looked at his allies. Drell, Marin, Terulian, all waiting for his decision. Then he turned to his crew, the men and women who had stood by him through everything. Change of plans, he said, his voice steady and determined. Set course for Earth, maximum speed. The Council can wait. Our people need us now. As the Reckoning's engines powered up, Miller knew this would be their greatest test. But for the first time, they wouldn't face it alone. The Reckoning raced through space toward Earth, pushing its advanced engines beyond recommended limits. Captain Miller stood at the center of the bridge, the grim determination on his face mirrored by his crew. Beside them stood their new allies, Captain Trell of the Drell, Supreme Coordinator Vaz of the Marin, and Representative Call of the Terulians. Status report, Miller ordered as they approached the Sol system. Officer Gray's hands moved quickly over her console. Earth's defense fleet is engaged with Vex forces near Mars orbit. They're holding, but taking heavy losses. The tactical display showed the battle in stark detail. 20 Earth warships against over 30 Vex vessels. The human ships fought bravely, but they were clearly outmatched. Sir, the tactical officer called out, I'm also detecting Council vessels at the edge of the system. They're not engaging, just watching. Of course they are, Miller said bitterly, waiting to see if their Vex allies finish their dirty work. Representative Call's silver skin paled slightly, or waiting to rescue Earth after sufficient damage has been done, forcing your people to accept Council protection and control. We won't let that happen, Miller said firmly. Prepare for battle. Alert all Allied ships to form up behind us. In the hours since forming their alliance, 5 more Drell vessels and 7 Maron ships had joined them. Their fleet was small compared to the Vex armada, but they had one advantage: the Reckoning. Lieutenant Reed looked up from his weapons station. Captain, the ship's AI has completed integrations with the Drell and Maron systems. Our combat effectiveness is estimated at 42% above previous levels. Chief Engineer Parker added, the shields have been reconfigured using Drell energy principles. They should be more effective against Vex weapons. Miller nodded. Open a channel to Earth Command. After a moment, the main screen displayed the command center on Earth. Instead of Admiral Wilson, a stern-faced woman appeared. This is General Rivera, acting commander of Earth Defense Forces. Identify yourself. This is Captain James Miller of the Reckoning. Relief briefly flashed across the general's face. Captain Miller, your timing is fortunate, though I should remind you that you and your crew are currently labeled as deserters. We can discuss my court-martial later, General, Miller replied. Right now, I have a fleet of Allied vessels ready to assist Earth's defense. The general's eyes widened slightly as she noticed the alien figures standing on Miller's bridge. Allied vessels? Yes, General. Species who, like humanity, have suffered from Vex aggression, while the Council stood by. We also have evidence that certain Council members have been actively coordinating with the Vex. General Rivera's expression darkened. Admiral Wilson disappeared 3 days ago. His family, too. Now we're under attack, and the Council ships just watch from a distance, claiming non-interference protocols. They were coming for the reckoning, Miller explained. But the Vex moved first. Permission to engage the enemy, General. After a brief pause, Rivera nodded. Permission granted, Captain. And good hunting. As the transmission ended, Miller turned to his allies. This is it. We go in hard and fast. The reckoning will lead, targeting the Vex command ships. Allied vessels focus on protecting Earth's fleet. Supreme Coordinator Vaz clicked his mandibles in agreement. The Maron ships will provide sensor support, identifying weaknesses in the Vex formation. Drell vessels will focus on medical support and rescue operations, Captain Trell added. We can extract damaged Earth ships and their crews. Miller looked at his crew, the men and women who had followed him into the unknown, who had chosen principles over orders. Battle stations, everyone. Let's show them what happens when species stand together as equals. The Reckoning burst into the battle at full speed, its advanced weapons immediately targeting the nearest Vex dreadnought. The massive enemy vessel turned to face this new threat, only to have its forward shields collapse under the Reckoning's enhanced weaponry. Earth's defenders, who had been fighting desperately to hold the line, watched in amazement as the infamous warship tore through the Vex formation like a knife. Behind it came the strange fleet of alien vessels, each performing roles that complemented the others perfectly. In the ship's engine room, Chief Engineer Parker worked alongside the Drell engineer Merrick, both of them making rapid adjustments to maintain the Reckoning's incredible power output. The AI is adapting faster than I can track, Parker said, a note of wonder in his voice as he watched system efficiencies increase in real time. Merrick nodded, his scaled hands dancing over the controls. It learns from all of us. Human ingenuity, Drell energy principles, Maron sensor precision. It combines our best aspects. On the bridge, Miller directed the battle with the calm confidence of a born leader. The Reckoning's superior firepower drew the attention of multiple Vex ships, exactly as he had planned. This allowed Earth's damaged fleet to regroup and the Allied vessels to take more strategic positions. Sir, Officer Gray called out, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the lead Vex vessel. Lieutenant Reed analyzed the data quickly. They're charging some kind of super weapon. Target appears to be Earth itself. Miller's decision was instant. Move to intercept. Maximum shields. The Reckoning broke formation, racing to position itself between the Vex flagship and Earth. As it did, the enemy vessel fired. A massive energy beam that streaked through space directly toward the human homeworld. The beam struck the Reckoning's enhanced shields. The entire ship shuddered under the impact. Warning lights flashed across every console as the shield generators strained beyond their limits. Divert all non-essential power to shields, Miller ordered. Parker's voice came through the comm system, tense but controlled. The Drell modifications are holding, but barely. We can't take another hit like that. We won't have to, Miller replied. "Lieutenant Reed, target their weapons system. Fire everything we've got." The Reckoning responded immediately, its own weapons blazing with deadly precision. The Vex flagship's primary weapon system exploded in a spectacular cascade of secondary detonations that rippled across the massive vessel. Seeing their flagship crippled, the remaining Vex ships began to break formation. Some attempted to retreat while others fought on desperately. "The Council vessels are moving," the tactical officer reported. "They're approaching Earth defense perimeter." Miller's eyes narrowed. "Just as we thought." They waited until both sides were weakened. Open a channel to all frequencies. Earth, Council, and remaining Vex ships. When the channel was open, Miller stood tall. "This is Captain James Miller of the Earth Warship Reckoning. To the Vex forces. Your flagship is disabled. Your formation broken. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." He paused, then continued. "To the Council vessels approaching Earth. We have transmitted evidence to all major worlds showing certain Council members' coordination with the Vex Empire. We have proof of blackmail against Earth officials and secret weapons development in violation of the very treaties you used to ban our ship." On the tactical display, the Council ships suddenly halted their advance. "Humanity does not stand alone," Miller declared. "The Drell, the Marin, the Terulians, we have formed an alliance of equals. We reject the Council's system of dominance disguised as protection. From this day forward, we stand together, or we do not stand at all." As he finished speaking, the remaining Vex ships began jumping away from the battlefield. The Council vessels, after a moment's hesitation, also began to withdraw. The battle was over. Earth was safe. In the days that followed, the evidence provided by the Reckoning and its allies sent shockwaves through the galactic community. 7 high-ranking Council members were removed from office. Admiral Wilson and his family were found unharmed, but under guard on a distant Council world. 1 month later, Captain Miller stood on the observation deck of Earth Space Station Alpha, watching as workers made modifications to the Reckoning. Beside him stood General Rivera and representatives from their allied species. "The first of the new peacekeepers," Rivera said, gesturing to the Reckoning and 4 other vessels under construction nearby. "Joint crews, shared technology, equal command structure. And no single species can control them all," added Representative Call. "The new alliance ensures that." Miller nodded, satisfaction evident in his expression. "Not banned anymore, just regulated, by all of us together." "The Council has agreed to reforms," Captain Trell noted. "They had little choice after their conspiracy was exposed." Supreme Coordinator Vaz clicked thoughtfully. "Many challenges remain. Not all species trust the new arrangement." "They will," Miller said confidently, "when they see that we protect everyone equally." As the others departed for a diplomatic meeting, Miller remained on the deck, watching his ship. The Reckoning had been built as a weapon, then labeled too powerful to exist. Now it represented something new, the capacity of different species to combine their strengths rather than fear each other's power. Lieutenant Reed joined him at the viewport. "They're saying in the crew quarters that you've been offered command of the entire Peacekeeper fleet." Miller smiled slightly. "I have. But I think I'll stick with the Reckoning for now. She and I have been through too much together." Reed nodded in understanding. The ship that was too strong to be allowed, now the ship that's strong enough to maintain peace. As the Earth's sun rose over the planet below, its light gleamed off the Reckoning's hull. The most powerful human warship ever built had found its true purpose at last. Not dominance, but protection. Not isolation, but alliance. And as Captain James Miller returned to his vessel, he knew that the greatest adventure was just beginning.